Oh, hello everyone. My name is Collazo. This is the interview for a leadership uh, guide that is a leader, recognized leader nationwide. I have the pleasure to be here with Mr. Kevin Brown. Mr. Brown is an athletic trainer. He's natural from Michigan, but now he's residing in Kentucky. Uh, and he will going to be with us in here to talk a little bit about his career and how he have been doing as a leader nationwide. So Kevin, I really appreciate you having the opportunity to interview you, and thanks for being here.
Good to be here.
Yeah. So Kevin, when I when I start to make some research about the different options that we have to be a leader, to interview a leader, I saw that you are a leader nationwide, that you are more concise on the performing arts. That's one of the things that is new, relatively new for the athletic training profession. So it was very interesting for me to know about your career and how do you start to be a leader in this field of the athletic training. So, but first, can you please give us a little bit of introduction about you? Where are you working right now? What is your scenario? What is your academical background to start this interview?
Sure. So I'm originally from Michigan, as you said. I did my undergrad at Eastern Michigan University, and then I worked for a year at Coastal Carolina University in Conway, South Carolina. Then I went on to the University of Minnesota, Minneapolis, and did my Master's of Education in Applied Kinesiology. Then I came to Kentucky. I worked at the University of Louisville for 3 years, and then left for a high school clinical role. As part of that role, the clinic I was tied in with, one of the physical therapists there was working with the ballet, which was interesting to me. So it came down to help, and I've just kind of grown my performing arts experience from there. Currently, I've left the high school and I'm now the director of sports medicine for Kentucky Orthopedic Rehab Team. I oversee about 50 high school contracts and 5 college contracts, as well as serving on our national sports medicine group. I am the president of the Performing Arts Athletic Trainers Society and serve on the NATA Council on Practice Advancement Performing Arts Committee.
That's pretty interesting. But before we keep going with the interview, uh, so you start to do or have this impact on the performing arts, but you have no background as a performing artist, right?
I grew up, kind of doing local theater, but other than that, no. I just kind of found it interesting to me and started growing it.
Yeah, so any athletic trainer that wants to work on that specialty, we can do it. No matter that we don't have any performing arts background or something like that. I'm Latin, I'm Puerto Rican. We like to dance a lot. I really understand that we as athletic trainers in here, we're gonna have a lot of space to grow in this field. So this is gonna be fun for me to learn about how the athletic trainers are doing in performing arts field. So that's pretty good. Uh, do you have any academical background on performing arts? We have the opportunity to to take a class in our doctoral degree program, which is taught by Dr. David Wickelfeld. I think you know him very well. So that was the first time that I have uh, any class or course when I learned something about performing arts. So do you have the opportunity to learn about that? Just it was just you being that you can do anything of letting training or in the performing arts, or did you study anything related to this before?
I didn't really study anything related to this. The performing arts was still a very new emerging field when I was in college. So, we didn't really learn a whole lot about it other than, oh, some athletic trainers are starting to do this. So I didn't really have much exposure to it really until I got here, and started working with Louisville Ballet. and kind of expanding my roles there. I think the important thing to remember is they're all athletes. Whether you're a dancer, whether you're a circus artist, whether you're a track athlete, whether you're a football player, they're all athletes, and the majority of the treatment is going to be the same. Yes, there may be differences between a dancer and a football player, but there's also differences between a soccer player and a basketball player. There are minor tweaks, but for the most part, you're going to treat them as athletes.
Yeah, that makes sense. They probably are more athletes than maybe other sports that we really work on a daily basis. There's just explosiveness, power, strength at any time and any motion. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I know obviously that you like this new field, but can you tell me, please, from the bottom of your heart, what is exciting about this? What make you feel that you wanted to be here for a long time to work with this population?
Well, I've always loved performing arts. I grew up in theater, grew up loving performing arts, musical theater, all of that, and so I think the opportunity to help those performing artists get better, help performing artists through their injuries. I think the second part that keeps me involved is just the culture, the thanks that I get. I think a lot of people still don't recognize that a lot of these performing artists really are athletes. And so a lot of them, any help you can give them is so appreciated, that I just love the culture and love being there.
That's really good. And I want to ask you this because of my experience in here in Puerto Rico. I think all the performing artists are very welcome for us to provide some healthcare services to them. But I believe that in some way we still have this problematic situation in when the coaches and administrative personnel are a little bit reluctant to that. So in your experience, do you have any issue with this kind of situations? How have you worked with that? How leadership has helped you to improve this issue within the performing arts population?
I think, you know, it's interesting because I think a lot of the artistic directors and art ballet staff and just theater staff, again, just really appreciates everything that can be done. Depending on where you're at, if you're working with a Broadway tour, they get paid by the show. So if they're injured and they don't perform, they don't get paid. As well as the show now has to pay somebody else to come in, a swing or an understudy to come in and do their role. So the shows appreciate it. The performer appreciates it because you're keeping them at work. But also, I've been lucky enough that the artistic director for Louisville Ballet came from Australian Ballet, where they have a amazing world-class performing arts medicine program.
Okay.
And so he bought in, was ready to roll. I think there are other, ballet companies, other performing arts groups where they're not as willing to just let go because they're worried about increased costs, or they're worried about, what they're worried about barriers. Whereas our artistic staff is worried about what's right for the dancer, what's right for the artist. Similar to a coach. Are you worried about getting them back on the field, or are you worried about keeping them healthy for the long term?
Yeah.
And I think that's the same conversation that we have. And, you know, sometimes we just have to put that out. Like, yeah, they could probably dance, you know, this show or dance during this rehearsal, but what is that doing to the lifespan of their career? You know, so similar conversations that we would have with the coach in a sport.
That's excellent. It's very good. You mentioned earlier before in this interview that you now are impacting a lot of people, you know, within your workplace. How many performing artists are you uh, working right now?
So the Louisville Ballet, I currently have 49 dancers. With Actors Theater Louisville, the show we're doing right now, there is a cast of 4 or 5, and then probably about 25 technicians. So we'll say 30. And then I also work with the Vision Dance Center, and I probably have about 120 dancers there. So I would say roughly 200, give or take.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's good. And are you alone? Do you have any other assistant athletic
I
trainers?
have one assistant athletic trainer that helps me out with the Louisville Ballet. And then I'm blessed to have a student right now who is great and, you know, is jumping in there and getting hands on and helping out and learning a lot, hopefully.
Yeah, that's great. So let's talk a little bit more about your person as a leader.
Sure.
Um, can you please provide a brief history of your leadership? What is your leadership style, and what is the highest role within the NATA leadership that you have occupied in your career? Yeah.
So, I mean, I think my leadership style, I tend to try to lead from the back. I tend to be more of a leader than a boss. You know, I feel like helping people figure out what to do and help provide guidance rather than just telling them this is what you need to do. You know, A, they respond better, and B, it helps keep them happier because they're involved in the decision-making process. I am currently on the COPA Performing Arts Committee. Hopefully we'll be rolling up to chair this summer. Interviews are coming. But yeah, I mean, I think ultimately it's about empowering people to make their own decisions, to help guide them, help provide from my experience or from, you know, whatever guidelines that may be set forward, help them meet those, but at the same time, tailoring that for what they want.
So yeah, you told us that you feel more like a leader than a boss. But have you made any adjustments on your leadership styles within the years? What do your experience have teach you about that?
I think the hardest thing for me has been the tough conversations, the radical candor, that you're not getting this done. Like, I need you to step up your game. I need you to step up and do what is required of you, what is needed of you. And so I think that's been the biggest change in me. When I first moved into a leadership position, I just I didn't like it. I didn't want to do it. I avoided it at all costs. And I still wouldn't say I like it, but I'm more comfortable in it
Yep.
because ultimately, again, if I'm not having that conversation, then they're not growing, they're not getting better. And maybe there's a barrier there that I'm not aware of, you know. But until I sit down and say, look, you know, your documentation is not good, it's not up to date, what's going on? And they're like, well, you know, my computer at school died, so I have to bring in my own laptop, or, you know, we have, you know, internet issues at school, something like that, that I can try to go then behind them and address and remove those barriers. You know, but how do I know that? All I know is your documentation's terrible when I'm reviewing it. But it's because you're trying to do it on your iPhone because you don't have a computer at school because it
Yeah.
broke and they haven't gotten you a new one.
Yeah, a little bit of communication. as always, they have teach to us, communication is very important. So how do you get that opportunity to be the president of the performing arts? Felicia, how was that path?
I kind of lucked into that one, or unlucked into that one. So when we formed Performing Arts Athletic Trainers Society, I became the vice president. Just, there were about 6 or 7 of us that kind of got together, and I said, well, I don't have anything else on my plate right now, and I'm happy to, become vice president and start leading that. And then the president got busy and started having, other things that came up in his life that he needed to do, and stepped down, decided not to run again. And I kind of got nominated by,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that was a bad. How is that? Can you tell us a little bit about that experience? What are you working on right now? What are the most important things that you want to improve, or the objectives of the society right now?
I think between Performing Arts Athletic Trainer Society and the NATA COPA Performing Arts Committee, like, I think our biggest, focuses foci right now would be increasing the care for performing artists, whether that is at the collegiate level. We're trying to grow programs in collegiate dance departments, collegiate fine arts departments, push for positions there. I think the next thing is advocating for the current artists, that performing artists, athletes that are at their colleges. I think there's a wide variety of care being provided right now for college cheerleaders and college dance teams. Some of them are considered part of the athletic department. Some of them are just a face for the university and really receive no care. And so there's a wide variety there, and I think just continuing to push that, so they get adequate health care, whether that's from the athletic department, whether that's from an outside entity that the university contracts. I think that is a huge issue right now between collegiate cheerleaders, collegiate dance teams not being provided the same benefits, the same healthcare, the same everything as every other athlete on campus is.
Okay. So there's a lot of things to work on. Yeah. A lot of responsibilities.
Right.
But that's good. My best of wishes with you and the society. I think you're doing a really good job. And hopefully you're keep going on that and doing the best for these athletes, as we recognize them as athletes. Now, can you tell us a little bit about the experience of the COPA, how in the NATA? How did you get that? How was that? What are your specific roles within that position?
So, I started out way back when it was whatever it was before COPA. We've changed names several times. And so at that point, the performing arts group was probably about 8 to 10 people that would be on a group. And then as we moved to the Council on Practice Advancement, and each committee was represented within that, they narrowed it down to 4 people. I was lucky enough to be selected to be one of the 4 people on the Performing Arts COPA group. And so I've done that for the last 4 years. We all got a 1-year extension due to COVID. And so I am officially supposed to roll off in June. However, our committee chair is also supposed to roll off in June. And so I've applied to be the committee chair.
That's pretty good.
I think our biggest focus right now, we're working on, again, trying to get more healthcare provided to dancers. One of our other committee members is very big in the breaking community, which, as you know, is going to be an Olympic sport in 2024 in Paris. So he's been keeping us updated on breaking and Breaking for Gold, which is the USA breaking organization right now that will eventually become the national governing body for USA breaking. We are working on research collaboration, kind of taking all of the performing arts research out there and trying to kind of create a little bit of a digest so athletic trainers kind of get the bottom line to it. We are also working on our performing arts business case, which again, I mentioned a little bit ago, just trying to provide some data and raw numbers behind the need for athletic trainers and collegiate performing arts, collegiate theater, collegiate dance programs, all of that, and advocating for positions there.
It's pretty good, pretty nice. This is another question that is not in the script, but does any NATA district have at least a committee to work on performing arts issues or something like that?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so that could be something to work on the future, right?
Definitely. I think all of the districts have some council on practice advancement, kind of representation, but I don't know of any that have a specific performing arts committee underneath that.
Okay, that's something that might can be work on the future.
Yeah.
What challenges have you faced over your career? And I think this question is more related to leadership. Now you can talk a little bit about personal experience, but I think this is more related to leadership. So can you please talk to us a little bit about it?
I think the biggest challenge that I've had from a leadership standpoint has been moving into a leadership position. I worked, as an athletic trainer in the high school for 9 years before I moved into that leadership position. So suddenly, all of the people that were my coworkers and colleagues, I was now their supervisor. And so finding that balance between still maintaining a good relationship, still maintaining, that adequate, friendship, if you will, but at the same time, now that I'm their supervisor, like being able, and those I think were the toughest for me to have those radical candor conversations. People that I had been friends with for 7, 8, 9 years, working together with them, suddenly now I have to be the one to sit down and say, I need you to step it up. I need you to get better. And I think that was probably the biggest challenge for me, is really just, developing that leadership and relationship, finding the balance between the personal relationship that I have with people into the professional relationship that I now need to have with them.
That's pretty good. So again, Kevin, thank you for being here. This is my last question to get in with the interview. You please can give us or any athletic trainer some advice on how to be leaders within our profession. How a young athletic trainer can work on improving some things to be a leader.
I think the best advice I can give is start small. You don't have to be the next, take on everything, chair of the COPA committee, president of the NATA. Get involved somewhere. Start developing your skills, start developing your leadership, whether that's at work, if there's a small task, a small project that interests you. I have a couple of newer athletic trainers fresh out of school that, I've kind of tapped to help me with our social media, with our, kind of promoting athletic training, because I'm old and, I'm not the Instagram, Snapchat, super user, and they are. And so tapping them and them coming to me saying, look, can we do this? We really want to help promote athletic training. How do we get involved? How do we do this? Allowing them to help gain those small leadership experiences then becomes larger leadership experience, which then becomes formal leadership experience.
Yeah, just start. I remember one advice that one person gave me a long time ago. They say, you want to be good with something, you start with the broom. Start using the broom, and then you listen and see how it's done. Everything is done, and you get knowledge in that. So again, Kevin, I really appreciate your time. This I know that this interview will be good for all all the students that we are in this course, and I really believe that you're gonna be a good leader and do good on performing arts. That's something new for us, and hopefully we keep getting better and stronger on this new field that we can work on lady training work.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks to you.
Have a great
I'll see
day.
you. Bye.